Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Sunday and it's January the 17th, 2022. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to extend to you a warm welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. You know, I always say the tide changes so frequently here on these YouTube streets, so you always have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want you to know I sincerely thank you for your support. Feel free to like and to share this video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. And our story today comes from Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. Take a look at the headline. And it reads, Army files charges in the Roman-Martinez beheading case. I'll provide you with a summary here, and as always, I'll place links to a few of the full articles in the description box. This is one video I have been so excited to share. I first read about this update in the Stars and Stripes, then the Army Times provided the confirmation I needed. And I have to tell you, I wanted to scream out in jubilation. I said, yes, yes, it's about time, it's about time. I have said all along that I would follow this murder case until the end. I promise it would take center stage on my page whenever new information becomes available or whenever it was solved. So here we are again, more news to share. And to be honest, this is the best news I've had all year. And as you may recall, it was just 3 months ago when we were notified that Army CID had concluded their investigation without reaching any meaningful conclusions and without being able to hold anyone accountable for this murder. We were told back then the case had moved into the cold case files, so imagine the surprise with this latest news. The most recent update on this case was published by the Army Times a few days ago. I believe it says January the 14th, and it says that 3 soldiers were charged in connection with the case. No murder, case is still unsolved, but 3 individuals were charged in some way. But I believe it was the Rolling Stone who actually did the interviews and first brought this information to light. And I know you've heard this story a few times before, but if you would allow me to look back and provide you with just a brief overview before we move forward. This young man, 21-year-old Army Specialist Enrique Roman-Martinez, a native of Chino, California, was a paratrooper assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division here on Fort Bragg as a human resource specialist. And this was his first military assignment. He was just months away from leaving the military and returning to civilian life. Well, his life came to a tragic end sometime during Memorial Day weekend in 2020. Now, there are so many missing pieces to the story, and as more and more information becomes public, a somewhat more accurate summary of events are emerging. We know that Specialist Roman Martinez and 7 other individuals, 6 men and 1 woman, we were under the impression that all of them were soldiers at Fort Bragg because their names were never really made public. But we know there were 7 of them. We have since learned that during that time, it was at the beginning of the COVID surge and Fort Bragg was on a lockdown. So soldiers did not have permission to spend a weekend off base. They had a radius, but beyond that radius, they needed to be on pass or on leave. But this group of friends, they left Fort Bragg for a weekend vacation at a beach in an area known as Outer Banks. And they specifically went to one of the islands known as Cape Lookout Historic Campsite. Nonetheless, the following day, his buddies claimed he just disappeared overnight during heavy rain, and a week later, I believe it was on May the 29th, his head washed up on the shore of one of the islands, and to date, his body has never been recovered. Upon examination of the paratrooper's head, forensic experts determined that he was beheaded, but without a body to examine, they could not determine how the young paratrooper was killed, even though the examination showed his jaws were broken in several places and there were several chops to his head. So even though they knew he was murdered, they could not determine if he was killed first and then his head was cut off, or whether or not his head was cut off, and that's what resulted in his death. But one thing for certain, they knew his death was by homicide. And the focus has always been on those 7 people who went on that trip. Even though there did not seem to be any published evidence connected them to the death of Specialist Roman-Martinez, we just kind of felt that they had something to do with it. And when the facts started coming in, their action seems more and more suspect. For one thing, they waited almost 19 hours to call and report Roman-Martinez missing. That was the first thing that didn't make sense. We also listened to the 911 call when it was eventually released, and the male caller, will identify him in a few minutes, well, he told the operator his group had been looking for park police to report their friend missing, and they had been searching and they could not find anyone. They had been looking all day. We later found out that was the biggest lie, because earlier in the day there were reports of them racing along the beach in their vehicle, and about 3 p.m. they had been approached by a park police and directed to move their car. That would have been the perfect opportunity to report, their missing paratrooper friend. And it was not till much later in the evening, 3 to 4 hours later, I think it was about 4 hours later, after that encounter, that's when they actually made that 911 call. Also, the 911 call, the operator asked the caller whether he was aware of Roman-Martinez having any medical or mental health problems. And the individual who made the 911 call said that Roman-Martinez had suicidal tendency, even though he had not been diagnosed, and they were concerned for him. And this in itself was trying to create a scenario that the young paratrooper could have killed himself. But the narrative just created more skepticism, because people were just saying that they had acted irresponsibly, because the Army focuses so much on team building and team support and the buddy system. So if they knew the soldier could potentially have killed himself, they should have been more responsible in keeping an eye on him while he was on the trip, and then immediately letting someone know when he turned up missing. And then things just was not adding up. And after that, we learned that all 7 individuals had loyaled up. Nobody was talking. And that in itself left a lot of question marks. And that's around the time we learned that the FBI was now assisting with the investigation. And I recently found out from reading this article that the team of 7, as I often call them, that's 6 men and that woman, I found out that the team of 7, that they had notified their command about their supposedly missing team member on Monday. Remember, this happened on Memorial Day weekend, so they started the weekend, but on Monday, they notified the command at Fort Bragg. But according to the Rolling Stone report, the command, for some reason, failed to take action, and as a result, they delayed CID from being able to get the investigation started. The report also states they allowed one member of the team of 7 to enter Roman-Martinez's room after they returned home. This apparently happened before the room was actually locked down for the investigation. Now, this to me is just shocking. I wonder how many other failures by the command will come out in the future. And I know Representative Norma Torres, which is the representative from Roman-Martinez district, home district, she was closely following this case. And in a letter to the Army Inspector General last fall, she specifically addressed some of the major failures that took place at the beginning of the investigation, and also how the Army had treated Roman-Martinez's family. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this piece in the future. So let's fast track back to more recent events. Now, in late October, I believe it was on October the 19th of 2021, that's when we found out that CID had released a statement saying they had concluded their investigations and that the case had moved into the cold case files. And I did a video on that. In fact, that was the last video I did on this topic. They said that despite a $50,000 reward for information pertaining to the case, they had reached the end of the road without finding any evidence to hold anyone responsible for the murder. And I know the family, they felt lost and they felt defeated. But somehow we were still hoping that someday there would be an arrest. And now we learned that 3 soldiers would face charges as it pertains to this investigation. Also, there's no evidence that any of them would be charged directly with the paratrooper's murder. The 3 are scheduled to face a court-martial for a variety of charges later this year. But let's begin with the person who made that 911 call. He is Specialist Alex Becerra. His unit of assignment was not disclosed. In fact, not much information was released about him, but it was reported that Becerra faced charges of conspiracy, violating a lawful order, 3 specifications of giving false statements, 3 specifications of disobeying a commissioned officer and drug use. It was revealed that members of this party were using LSD while on this trip, but since Becerra has not yet been arraigned, it could not be stated if that's the drug that's mentioned in his chart. His arraignment is scheduled for 20 January, which is coming up this week. I went to the e-docket just to check and see if the date for the arraignment was still as reported, and as you can see, there it is, no change. So the arraignment is scheduled for noon on 20 January. So let's look at the other 2 soldiers identified in that Army Times reporting. Private Anna Marie Cochelle and Private First Class Samad Landrum. Both of these soldiers are assigned to the same unit as Roman-Martinez, and that's the 37th Brigade Engineer Battalion Headquarters Company. I believe I saw a picture of Landrum, but I'll just wait until I have pictures of both of them. I went back and I looked at the military document, and both of these individuals were arraigned on January the 6th. Now, I did not look at the charging document, but according to the Army Times, their charges include using LSD on the night Roman-Martinez was killed, violating Fort Bragg COVID-19 travel radius without authorized leave or pass, which means that they were AWOL. They were also charged with conspiring with 5 other individuals to make false statements on May the 23rd, which is the day Roman-Martinez was reported missing. It's not rocket science for anyone to figure out the 5 individuals whose names were not mentioned are the 5 other people making up the group of 7. It's not rocket science to figure that out. Landrum lied to investigators in 3 official statements he gave, which include trying to conceal the identity of that 7th person on that trip. Anna Maria is also charged with breaking 2 no-contact orders. She was ordered to stay away from other people who were in that group, and investigators were able to verify that she violated that order twice, and the most recent was for a few days in May of 2021. So let me summarize the new information we found out this time, and it surrounds what happened early on that weekend, Memorial Day weekend. It was during COVID-19 lockdown. Fort Bragg soldiers were issued travel restrictions, but this group violated that order and traveled to the Outer Banks area. All of the people have not been identified, but it was one hell of a weekend, fueled with drug use and who knows what else. Then there were a lot of lies being told to cover up whatever happened on that trip. We know it was a very rainy weekend. In the Rolling Stone article, one individual not connected with a team of 7 stated he was surprised that Landrum, the person who made the 911 call, they were surprised that individual would even coordinate a trip in such bad weather. The group members were reluctant to disclose names of all people on that trip. They falsified statements that about what time they left. We know that the command did not properly act when notified that Roman-Martinez was missing, and they failed to pass along information. It was stated that, but their failure to pass along information delayed the start of the investigation by about a week. We learned that members of that group were able to return home and enter the room of Roman-Martinez before it was officially locked down. And we know that 3 soldiers are facing charges, but no one is facing murder charge. But this is what I think. It's only a matter of time because, in my opinion, they already know who did it. But we are going to stay on this case, and whenever there's new information available, we're going to bring it to you right here. But that's all I have for you right now. Feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video. And of course, feel free to like and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on this notification bell right here, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.